You are listening to Coding Talks podcast with Vishnu. Spend some time with Vishnu, who has more than 14 years experience in IT, having worked extensively on applications ranging from enterprise level, web and cloud solutions to big data analytics applications. He holds strong insight into the Microsoft .NET technologies, Microsoft Azure, and latest technology stacks, including Node.js, Xamarin, and React. This podcast will be available on all leading platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcast, iTunes, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. Begin your journey to better understand different programming technologies right now.
Good evening all. Here it is currently night here in Thiruvananthapuram. Myself Vishnu VG. Those of you who were listening my earlier podcast may know that in this podcast, Coding Talks with Vishnu VG, that is available on all leading platforms. Every week I will be discussing on some particular technical topic so that the newcomers get a familiarity. Not just the newcomers, everyone who is interested to know a particular technology may get some insights from this particular talk. That is what I intended to be. I started this podcast around 1 year back and I were regularly hosting the episodes. But past few months, I was busy with creating some of the YouTube videos in my YouTube channel. So that is also a good news from my side. Like I have started a new YouTube channel called the Coding Talks with Vishnu, which is same as the name of this podcast, that is available on YouTube. I also give a link below this particular podcast description so that in case if you are interested to have a video version of the same, you can check out the particular channel as well. So in that channel, I have already included some of the different discussions like the using the different cloud providers like Amazon, Microsoft Azure and Google. Feel free to check out that channel as well. In addition to that, I will be planning to continue this podcast as it is, especially an audio podcast, because those who were regularly listen may feel a kind of bit odd like an approach like some days back I have created an audio version of that same YouTube sessions which I were taking, and I felt like it doesn't match that of an pure audio tailored podcast. So I also felt that in mind and I tried to delete all that audio versions of YouTube which I uploaded. And I plan to include a audio specific version in this podcast for the today as well as for the future episodes, so that those particular audio based listeners can get a familiarity with that lesson, that sessions, and not just an audio version of the YouTube one they want or they like to hear. So with that in mind, let's start the session. Today we will be discussing on Cosmos DB, which is a NoSQL service from Microsoft Azure. So there are two types of categories of database generally comes out in the programming world. So one is called the relational database, where you have a structured data in place and you can relate that data in terms of tables and associated columns. And some of the examples of relational DB are like the Microsoft SQL Server, the Oracle, MySQL, PostgreSQL, and much more. Relational DB has its own place, and when I started programming, I was honestly not aware of any of the NoSQL options out there. And for all the application, we were using a relational kind of database like the SQL Server, or sometimes we tend to use Oracle or MySQL as well, depending upon the client's requirements. But nowadays, because of the variety of data as well as the volume of data is that much high, so that we need to process so much of things at a particular point of time, that relational database is not capable of that much of scalability. Relational databases can scale up to a limit, like for example, some types of structured data, we can easily fit that inside a relational database in terms of tables and associated tables. We can set relations between them. We can set different columns, like in the case of a familiar example like employee, where we create an employee table. We set a different set of attributes in terms of columns. We have data in terms of rows and columns, and we can easily query by using a language like SQL. And similarly, we can set associated data in related tables like employee account or something, and we can set foreign key relations between those. So those are the kind of approaches we usually follow in relational database. But relational database has a limitation that in case if we want to scale up the relational database, we can scale that only vertically. So we can increase the capacity of the server or its processing power up to a limit, but we can't scale a relational type of database horizontally. So that is one disadvantage of having a relational database. And another thing is like the unstructured data, too much in place in applications these days. Like for example, in the case of a website like a shopping site or some kind of social media sites like the Facebook or Twitter, the variety of data is so much high, and the volume of data is also so much different. The volume of data is so high, and the variety is also so high, and the velocity, means the pace at which these data are coming into our application, that is also too much high. So 3 V's are there in place. So when these 3 V's are placed, or when it becomes the characteristics of a data, such kind of data is called a kind of a big data, or it's kind of a scalable kind of data. And some specialized mechanism, storage mechanism, needs to be in place for handling this type of data. And that is why the NoSQL systems are getting popular out these days. Although we are talking particularly about Azure Cosmos DB, which is a service from Microsoft Azure, keep in mind that there are similar other services in different platforms as well. For example, in Amazon, it is called the DynamoDB, and in the Google Cloud, it is called the Bigtable. So similar Bigtable, BigQuery. So similar kind of related services are provided by different cloud vendors out there. So we are mostly using the cloud. So hope you are having a familiarity with why we going for a cloud rather than creating a on-premise infrastructure which cost a lot of upfront cost before developing an application. These days companies go for an approach like borrowing something from cloud, just like we borrow electricity from a power grid, and it follows a shared approach so that we have to only pay for what we are planning to use and not have to pay a lot of cost upfront. So that is the approach which usually these days everyone follow, and in application development also organizations are follow such kind of approach. So we plan to borrow something from cloud, and one such cloud offering for the NoSQL service is called the Cosmos DB. So it's from the Microsoft part, and Cosmos DB is a kind of a multi-model NoSQL database. multimodal in the sense that those with a different favor specific developers, like for example, if someone is comfortable with having a MongoDB, or someone wants to migrate their MongoDB database to cloud, they can take advantage of this Cosmos DB's MongoDB API. And similarly, those who have a proficiency in working with the SQL based queries, they can create a core SQL based API while creating the Cosmos DB, so that whatever way we interacting with the Cosmos DB will be happening through pure SQL, but underlying the database is a kind of a NoSQL. We will use SQL queries like a select star from employees or select star from customers. If you choose a SQL API while creating a Cosmos DB database, but underlying the technology is like it's kind of an what in Azure it is called Atom Record Sequence, or ARS based. So there is a system which translates these different APIs to an underlying NoSQL DB. And what Microsoft says regarding this is that this adds the possibility for adding future APIs as well. So currently, if you look into the Azure portal and if you open the Cosmos DB, and if you start creating a new Cosmos DB account, Azure prompts you to select an API, which is basically around 5 categories of API which you can select. So we can look into those APIs first. So currently now there are around 5 APIs in place, but because of having this ARS based model, by which Azure is having a system underneath that particular APIs which translates these different APIs into an underlying NoSQL DB, it shows that in future Azure can add more services as well. Maybe an Oracle API, or maybe something like a Postgres API or something, so that such developers will be able to interact with the Cosmos DB without having an idea about, okay, I am actually working to a NoSQL database. But still, one thing to keep in mind here is like, actually you have to model your data according to that particular NoSQL way, according to whatever API you choose. But all the translations will be handled off automatically by Azure itself. So let's look at some of the common APIs that are currently available in Azure. So for understanding this thing, you have to open the Azure Cosmos account inside an Azure portal. So you can use a free account or something like that. But keep in mind that Azure Cosmos DB is a kind of a bit expensive one. So if you not careful about how much actually you are spending, you may run out of that free account limit. So that should be keep in mind. And if it is a case of a pay-as-you-go account, keep that also in mind, because if you are not careful and if you go on consuming the Cosmos DB, it will cost you more. So be careful to select the least powerful one from the Cosmos DB. So these least powerful ones, it's called the kind of a way by called request units. So when you create the Azure Cosmos DB account, and when you create the different database, it prompts you to select the request unit that you want. So what is request unit? That is also important to understand. So this request unit is a kind of a way by which the Cosmos DB telling you that we will provide you a kind of a bit capacity of CPU, memory, or data transfer, and they combine all that in such a way that so they created that in such a way that they will define that in terms of request units. So basically it means like to read a 1 KB of data, it's like one request per unit. So we can say like, okay, for read it costs 1, and for insert or upload or delete, we can consider like 3 RUs, request units per second. So usually when they provide different request units, they will categorize that into a kind of a container, like for example 300 request unit per second or 400 request units per second. So you can choose based on your requirements. So the more the request unit will be, the higher the performance you will get, but the higher you have to pay for that. So that is one thing you have to keep in mind. So if you are trying out a free version or something with which you have a limited budget only, then it will be always good to choose the lowest request unit, but that will be having a slight performance impact, but you won't bother that much because your plan is to learn these things and not on the performance. For a production ready activity, production ready system, you have to think these request units carefully, and you have to choose that carefully as well. We will also look into what all different scalability options are out there. So there are different scalability options also there. We will discuss that as we going through this episode. So first of all, you have to select the lowest request unit, and then you have to select the available APIs. So you can select whatever API you are comfortable with. So if you select a core SQL API, so you can use the SQL queries to interact with the Cosmos DB NoSQL. Similarly, if you select the table API, the way by which you interacting with the Azure Cosmos DB is through an table API kind of thing. And similarly, Gremlin API is there, and MongoDB is a popular NoSQL vendor out there. And those of you who coming from NoSQL database and you are using a MongoDB kind of API, and if you have experience working with such kind of APIs, then MongoDB API will be the chosen one. Similarly, Cassandra API is there. But if you are not sure about which one to choose, and if you have a familiarity with using SQL, then the core SQL API is the one which I recommend to getting started with Azure Cosmos DB, because in addition to having this core SQL API, which is very easy to understand, because the syntax is very simple, like for example select star from table or select star from something like that, you can always use. And in addition to that, you have a set of server side programming also available in place. So Cosmos DB offers a SQL kind of server side approaches, like you can have a stored procedure or triggers or user defined functions, provided if you choose the core SQL API. But if you choose the table API or the Gremlin API or MongoDB API, you won't get the advantage of using a stored procedures or user defined function. But that stored procedure functions also, being that in cloud, it has some limitations which we will discuss a bit later. But having this core SQL API provides you the options to choose that. But that may not be feasible for all the projects. Some of the developers may be comfortable with using the MongoDB, and they want to have MongoDB from Azure, from inside Cosmos DB. So they should go for this particular MongoDB API as well. And those of you who want a table kind of API, like there is also a table storage service that is provided by Azure from the Azure Storage. So if you create an Azure storage, you would definitely have a table storage along with that particular Azure storage as well. But if you want more performance, more scalable performance oriented DB like Cosmos DB, and if you want to have a table API that is associated with that particular Cosmos DB, you can go for the table API as well. So that depends upon you. So if you want a high performance, highly available, multi-region compatible service like Cosmos DB, to have a table API for storing your logs or something, or something of a critical read-write intensive kind of thing, you can go for the Cosmos DB table API. And if you're not sure of anything, just stick on with the core SQL API. So that is what I recommend. Then the next set of things you need to understand while working with the Cosmos DB is the concept of partitions. So the way by which the Cosmos DB store these kind of unstructured NoSQL data is through partitions. So there is a concept called a logical partition and physical partition. So the logical partition is the one which you as a developer should specify, and Azure on behalf of that logical partition would divide your particular data in different physical partitions. So that means that if you define a logical partition, then Azure will set that particular logical partition based data in a separate physical partition. Maybe one physical partition can have multiple logical partitions as well, but all those things will be managed by Azure and you don't have to bother about anything. So you can instruct the Azure like I want this much of services, this much of DTUs, like not DTUs, the request per units like we defined earlier. So we, based on our requirements, we have to select a request units, the level of availability we want, the level of redundancy we want, like having available that database in multiple areas, and all those things Azure will handle behind the scene. And how Azure handles these things is by which Azure stores this data in different partitions called the physical partitions. But that partition, how they set these data in different partition is based on how you define the logical partition. So you may be wondering how you as a developer can define a logical partition. So you can specify a partition key while setting a new database or no container in Azure Cosmos DB. So that partition key is the one that should be unique on, and it's an important decision you have to make, because the selection of partition key sets how defines how your Cosmos DB will perform in terms of scalability and in terms of peak load time. So this is a primary design discussion, and the performance gets affected by choosing the right key, and if you choose a wrong key, the performance will be negatively affected. So what kind of keys that I can choose? For example, if you have a shopping website or something, you can select a unique ID for having as a primary key, because if it's a kind of a shipping item or a customer table, you can select a unique one with a high cardinality and distinctiveness of often time. For example, if you have a database, if you want to create a container or a database with a Cosmos DB container with a primary key, for example, if you select a serial number or something, that is a good choice. But if you select a item model or something, that can cause a skewness, like if too much of data is inserting into the DB and that data has the same primary key, then what would usually happens is, if you select such a key like the model or something, every such data will goes into one partition and the other partitions will remain vacant. So that causes skewness of data as well as it causes performance issues. So the right keys to choose, that should be a unique key, but it need not have to be too unique, but it has to be a unique one. In the case of a phone number, phone model storing database, you can select a serial number as a key, primary as a partition key, but not the model number, because if you choose the model number, maybe every such particular model maybe goes into one partition, one logical partition, and Azure based on that logical partition will store everything in one such partition, so the performance may get affected. So if you not carefully select a distinct partition key, so that can cause another issue called the capping as well, because when you choose a wrong key, every data will falls in one particular partition. In the example which we just discussed, the case of selecting a wrong primary key like the model number, and if the customers are inserting a lot of such particular model into the database as part of your application logic, every such data will goes into one such particular partition, and after some time that partition may get overburdened, and every request that is serving from that particular partition may be throttled. So Azure will automatically throttle that particular request, particular reads from that particular partition if it is too much. So that can cause throttling. So to avoid that, you have to select a proper primary key, not primary key, sorry, partition key for your Cosmos DB while creating a particular container. So this is very important to understand. Otherwise, that will cause the skewness of data. So the next thing, these are some of the things which we need to understand while creating a database in Azure Cosmos DB itself, because at the point of time where you start creating a database, Azure will ask you all these details like please provide a partition key, please provide a container name, please provide a database name, and so on. So you have to carefully analyze the partition key and everything which you want to provide, and you have to provide a unique key which does not cause skewness or throttling of data, because Azure underneath the scene, behind the scene, it will be storing that particular logical partitions into different physical partition. So however you define that in terms of this particular partition key defines how the actual data is served and how much performance you will get from that Cosmos DB. So partition key, it's very important, and once you created a partition key, if you want to change that partition key, the only option that remains to you is to create a new container and a new partition key on that container. Then you have to migrate all your data to that particular container. So that means a bit of work is involved. So at the beginning of the creating the container itself, it is best to identify a proper partition key. Then the second thing is how much you are going to pay for this particular Cosmos DB. So there are different ways, like you can provision in advance, like if you are confident that how much you are actually going to use, how much request unit that you want, like we discussed earlier, how much data we are actually storing, and if you are having an awareness of that, you can always go for a provisioned one, and that is the better approach. But sometimes you may not able to identify like how much users are going to consume your system at a particular point of time, especially in some kind of applications like shopping websites. So in that case, you can go for an auto scale mode. So that is suitable for handling the variable workload with confidence. So that means that if you select auto scale, the system the Cosmos DB can serve the maximum value which you set at peak time, and it can also scale down in the sense that it can scale down up to 10% of the actual capacity it has. But it won't goes beyond that. It can goes beyond 10% of the actual capacity. So that is called the auto scale. So currently these are the two provisions which we have in Azure Cosmos DB, and a new one is coming which is called the serverless, which is the same as the concept of an Azure function, which means that you have to pay only for what you actually consume. Serverless means that we have to don't bother about any of the infrastructure at all, and we have to pay only for what we actually use. That is built in seconds. So that is another option. But currently that is not yet implemented, And currently the only provision is like the only modes which we can choose is like the provisioned mode and the auto scale mode. So provisioned mode is better, but some cases auto scale also can be used, but it won't scale down to 0. In the case of auto scale, it can scale down to 10%, 10% of the actual maximum capacity which we set, and it will be built accordingly. So you have to plan your request, plan your things accordingly. And another thing is like how you can set these particular provisioned or auto scale. So you can set that at a database level or at a container level. So you can have, if you create a new item, new database and associated container, you can understand the concept of database and containers in the Azure Cosmos DB. So this different costing models you can set for either a DB or database or a container or for both. And billing is kind of a hourly billing, and if it is serverless, then you have to pay only for what you want to actually use, and that is it in the process. And if you not carefully select the particular things, like for example, if you select a provision and if you select the lowest request units wrongly, then if a workload exceeds the provisioned throughput, the operations can fail. So these all things you need to be aware of while selecting things. So let's now understand how we can create a resource in the Azure Cosmos DB. There are different ways by which you can create a resource, like either you can create it through an ARM template, which is the preferred approaches which the organization considers these days, so that they can automate the things. So once you have an ARM template for creating a particular database and a container in Azure Cosmos DB, they can use that same template with the variable parameters to automate. So because it is a customizable and repeatable process, and you can do that as well, or you can create manually from Azure portal as well. And while creating, you have to specify what type of API we want. So along with the selection, like it will ask basically like what's the database name that should be unique. Firstly, when you create a new account in Cosmos DB, you have to provide an Azure Cosmos DB account name, and that will be the URL which is used for accessing the Azure Cosmos DB. So you have to provide an unique account name, and the next thing is like you have to provide a database name as well, and the container name as well, database and container name as well. And you have to provide the partition key, which is also very important, and you have to also provide the request unit which you want, and the type of cost, like type of consumption model, like the provisioned or the auto scale which you want to choose. You can change that all later, like the or provisioned or the auto scale, but this primary key and the names which you provide, you can't change that later, so you have to be a bit careful. And this part not primary key, apologies if I mentioned primary key again accidentally, but if you provide the primary key, if you provide the partition key wrongly, that will have an impact on the performance. So you have to provide a unique key properly for that, for its proper performance, because this is one of the major thing which many of the blog articles and many of the tutorials always instruct you, because the selection of primary key is very important. And then you have to select the API which you want to work with. As we discussed earlier, the Cosmos DB provides different APIs like the Core SQL, MongoDB, Gremlin, and the Cassandra. And based on your comfortability and your project requirements, you have to select a particular API. so that you can communicate using that API with the Cosmos DB. But underlying it is using an ARS model by which Azure automatically translates all your API calls to underlying NoSQL DB. So that will happen transparently. And based on the API which you selected while creating the database, so the Data Explorer interface also differs a bit. So Data Explorer is an easy option by which you can interact with these Azure Cosmos DB instances. So if you select a core SQL, it will show like you can insert a document there, and you can query that using the normal SQL query, like select the star from there. But if you selected a MongoDB API, it will show like a document based approach, and you have to use the MongoDB specific languages for querying that particular DB, whether it is from the Data Explorer or whether it is through the Azure SDK. So your application in most cases will be interacting with these Cosmos DB through the SDKs which is provided for different languages. Currently the SDKs are provided for .NET Core, the Node.js, Java, Python, JavaScript and much more. So you can check that. And also an HTTP API is also provided. So in case if your language is not supported any of these SDKs, you can always go for an HTTP REST API as well, so that you can interact with the Cosmos DB. And the selection of the APIs, which type of database you choose, like the Core SQL or MongoDB, defines the way by which your application interact with the particular Cosmos DB as well. So basically it acts like a kind of a intermediator, these APIs, and it will transfer that particular calls to and from your application. So as I explained earlier, if you select the Core SQL as a programming Core SQL as an API while creating the Azure Cosmos DB, you have the additional benefit of using the serverless code, like the stored procedure, the triggers, as well as the user-defined function. Stored procedure has its own advantage, and it is tied to that particular container, and it is only available for Core SQL APIs. So using the stored procedure, you can read, update and delete the underlying NoSQL documents, and it can have input parameters as well, and that particular stored procedures can be executed from your application through SDK or from within the Azure portal through the Data Explorer. So once you created a new database and add some items or document items in this NoSQL DB in Azure Cosmos DB, so on the left hand side you can view the Data Explorer. So that is the way by which you will be basically interacting, especially in demos or for understanding about what is inside your particular container or database. The flow goes like this: account, then the database, then the container. So if you want to understand about what all document items are there inside that particular NoSQL DB, you can go for the Azure Portal Data Explorer. And the stored procedure basically executes on that primary replica. Means it's kind of an way by which sometimes it needs to read, sometimes it needs to update the data. So it basically acts on that primary replica, and it will be automatically distributed to different areas, provided if you select the multi-region or such kind of replications. So we will go that in a bit later in this episode. First, let's understand that if you select the Core SQL, this has this much advantages, but there are some limitations as well. Because even if you select this stored procedure, don't think that it works on all the data, because at the beginning of the session we understood that we have to provide a partition key while creating a database. So this partition key defines the way by which these logical partitions are created. So if you provide a unique key, the data will be evenly distributed among different partitions. So that will be handled by Azure, but you have to provide that partition key. And this SP, the stored procedure, works only on one partition at a time. So that means while querying or read something through that particular stored procedures which you are creating, or whatever action you are performing through that stored procedure, make sure to provide a key as well, so that combined with that key, it can easily go to a particular partition and can identify these things. So the partition key also needs to be so it can work only on one partition at a time. And if there is a case where you want to work across multiple partitions, and if your data is distributed evenly across the multiple partition, which is usually a good strategy for performance, but if you want to have operations across multiple partitions, then SP is not a suitable one. And another thing to keep in mind while using this stored procedure inside the Cosmos DB is that all operations are within a certain time limit. That means Azure can automatically throttle the request after that particular time, and all your transactions that you written inside the stored procedure will be rolled back. So that thing also you have to be understood. But you can plan a kind of a mitigation bounded executions where one particular execution will chain to a separate one, like a kind of a chunked approach where you can use a kind of a continuation strategy, but that's a bit trickier to implement, but you can implement that as well. So these are some of the things which we understood. And server-side programming using this stored procedure or this trigger or user-defined function is always good, because it has the additional flexibility and additional options that it provides, but the limitations also have to be understood. So you can always the one advantage is like you can always sequence a certain set of operations as a single unit. It's called the asset transactions. And if that particular set of transactions fail, you can roll back that as well. So that is also possible with this kind of server-side logic. And that is also good for high performance writes as well. Then similar to the stored procedure, there is the concept called a trigger. And a trigger is also tied to a container. And it can also used for read, update and delete documents. But the trigger does not have an input parameter like the stored procedure or the user-defined function. And you can use that as well. So go to Azure documentation to find more about the usage of these things. And similar to the stored procedure and trigger, there is the concept called the user-defined functions. That is also tied to a container, but user-defined functions are used particularly for querying the database, and it will be capable of only reading the documents and not otherwise. So limitations we already discussed about that. So different kinds of programming languages are also supported. Its SDKs are also provided by Azure for the .NET Core, Java, Node.js and Python. And to connect to your particular Azure Cosmos DB, an account endpoint URL and an account key is required. So account endpoint URL is the one which the portal, Azure portal can give you after creating an account in Cosmos DB. So the URL you can take it from there. It is based on the account you provided. So that is the one reason by which the account name that you are providing for Azure Cosmos DB has to be unique. And also an account key, a primary and a secondary account key is also provided. So primary key is what basically we use, and secondary key is also used in case of any compromise happened on the primary key, or if you want to interchange the keys periodically, you can do that as well. So to to connect from your application, you can check out the different SDKs and its different functions that are provided. So that is also can be used. But the core thing here is like just like you can interact with your underlying NoSQL through different APIs based on the API selection, that the core SQL or the Cassandra or MongoDB, that way by which your application should be interacting with the that is based on that particular API selection. Your application needs to interact with that specific keys. If you select a MongoDB API, your application should interact in MongoDB terms and terms and constraints, like terms and languages, to interact with the Azure Cosmos DB. So in addition to that, we can also integrate some of the other services. One of the other service in Azure is called the Azure Functions, which is good for serverless programming. So you can combine the Azure Function and this Azure Cosmos DB. So how we can combine the things is like different approaches we can choose. Like you can create an Azure Function trigger. From the Azure portal, create an Azure Function trigger, and you can input bind from a Cosmos DB container. So input binding is particularly used when you have an application scenario where you are storing something in Azure Cosmos DB and you want to trigger something behind the scene and do something. If you are saving some document in Azure Cosmos DB and you want to update something based on that input, you can write an Azure function with the input binding as the trigger. Input binding, you can provide different kinds of input binding if you are familiar with Azure function. So one way is like you can provide an HTTP binding, or another way is by which we can provide the storage or the Cosmos DB binding as well. So if you provide Cosmos DB binding, whenever something is updated in that particular container which you set as the trigger, the Azure, that corresponding Azure function will be triggered automatically, and you can write logic to do some of the work behind the scene. Similar way, you can also set output binding to Cosmos DB container as well. Output binding means if your Azure function is doing something and if you want to store something out to the Azure Cosmos DB, you can do that as well. So that is also an option. And another way is by which you can set the change feed, and you can connect change feed from the Azure Cosmos DB and you can connect that to Azure function trigger as well. So that is another option. Then while using Azure Cosmos DB, you have to be a bit careful about the cost, and to understand about how much cost you want to consider, you can use different options. Like the one option is like you can start with a low cost one, and you can check the cost graph which is within the Azure portal. Inside the Azure portal and inside that particular Azure Cosmos account which you created, if you go to the overview tab on the left hand side, that overview tab will be the default one. You can view all the cost graphs that are associated with Azure Cosmos DB. And on the left hand side, you can also always look for the estimation as well. Like if you browse the container from the data portal, and you can check the different kind of estimations, then the cost query status as well, like how much cost your query is taking, how much request unit that query is taking. So one approach you can do is like from the beginning of the session, we understood that we will be creating a new Cosmos DB account, and we will be creating a database, and we will be specifying a request unit per second. So the request unit, we were not sure how much our application actually want. So once you developed an application, you can start with a lower request units at the beginning, and based on some of the key queries that you are used from your application, you can understand how much request unit that query is actually taking from this query status windows. So query status windows can be navigate from the data explorer, and when you run a particular query, you can understand the different cost that is associated with that particular query status, and you can formulate a way by which how much actual query your customers are going to request or handle to request or trigger to your application. That may be an approximate one initially, and based on that you can set the query from the query status you can understand the cost of query. And similarly, the Azure Cosmos DB capacity calculator and the pricing calculator is also a good resource for identifying these request units and to correlate that with the actual cost, and you can plan accordingly. Sometimes based on the cost you may need to lower the request per unit, and you have to manage your application accordingly. And the scale up and the auto scale and the provisioned things are what we already discussed, like all these things which we understood from the pricing calculator, from the query status, all those can be is ultimately boiled down to choosing a kind of a provisioned or an auto scale approach. And if you are selecting a provisioned approach, make sure that you don't over provision at the starting, because over provision may cost more. So compare the actual with the approximate one and adjust the provisioning as required once you get a fair idea about how much your application is actually using. And another thing is, like if you are migrating from your on-premise to your on-premise environment to Azure Cosmos DB, then don't just migrate everything from there as it is and shift it to the cloud, because in the cloud there can be more different levels of approaches which you can choose, that you have more flexibility than that of an on-premise model. So if you rethink your decisions, like how can we split the containers, how can we set the different documents, how can we set the partition key, and if you rethink all things, and if you can keep it simple and formulate a strategy based on all these things, like how much provisioning you set, and then you incrementally move that to cloud, then that will be a good approach, because then the cloud can save the cost. Otherwise, what happens is you were following a wrong approach in the in your on-premise DB, on-premise infrastructure, and if you are directly switching from that particular to a Cosmos DB or migrating the data, and that may not be a good approach. So this lift and shift approach is not a good strategy for migration. So you have to first lay out the model at the DB level or a container level or both of that, and you have to pick a proper partition key and provide a key that should evenly distribute the data, that should evenly distribute your ongoing data or your migrated data, and sometimes you have to tune your indexes as well. So index by default, all the properties that you created for your document are indexed, but sometimes you have to tweak the index as well. Index, you don't have to index every property, so you can provide the custom or you can customize the index, like you can include the path or excluding the path. So you can include the path to a particular value or a particular array element or an element below a node in that particular document structure, a NoSQL document structure. So you can include or exclude the different properties, and you can make it performance. So for example, for read-write activities, you don't need an index at all, and sometimes to read from the database or read oriented property, you have to include that in index as well, so that it gets a performant read operation. And if you create a new document in the Azure Cosmos DB, which you can do that from the data explorer, once you select an API and once you open the data explorer, you can insert a new item. So one thing which you can view from the time at the time of insertion is like when you insert a new document into the Azure Cosmos DB, an ID and an E tag will be automatically added by Azure. So these kind of properties are excluded by default from indexing, and indexing is can be modified at any time. So you can provide a best index if you can always give a tune your index, fine tune your index as required, because it does not have a impact on the performance, and it will be an asynchronous operation that can happen, and it does not affect the performance at all. So feel free to modify your index as you like. You have to select the best index as well. So for this index and these performance options, Azure Document provides a good range of things, which I can include that at the description of the section, so that you can always go there and can learn more things. And another thing you can think about while creating Cosmos DB applications, especially to improve the performance, is like in the queries, always use the where clause and the partition key, so that based on the partition key that you provided in the query, Azure can go to a particular partition and can read the particular data from that particular partition. So that is one thing to be aware of. And if you are using an SDK, set the required properties like the maximum degree of parallelism. So you can set the different values like a 0 or 1 or 2 at the same time. So the correct way to set the maximum degree of parallelism while using the SDK, especially that is the way by which your applications parallelly triggering the Azure Cosmos DB containers or Azure Cosmos DB partitions. So the parameter that you should provide to your application, the parameter name is like the max degree of parallelism. So 0 can be set for a sequential way by which each and every request will be served sequentially. But if you properly partition your Cosmos DB and evenly distribute your data, the maximum degree of parallelism should be set in equal to the number of partitions that your Cosmos DB have. Then there are some other things also which you needs to be understand, especially about the global distribution of data. So in Cosmos DB being a global database, you have always have the options to easily add and remove the multiple regions. So that means based on the number of regions you choose, the cost will go up a bit higher, but the performance, the availability of the application will be much better. So you can choose different regions for your global distribution. So for that you can always select from the left hand side that particular geo distribution you want, and you can set the different regions as well. So once you create an account in Azure Cosmos DB, and at any point of time from the left side menu from that particular Azure Cosmos DB account interface, you can select a particular you can enable the global distribution or the multi-region, and you can add different regions and update that whenever you write, and it will be like provide higher SLAs if you add more regions. And based on that you have to that you can always have the option to set multiple read write as well. So if you set the multiple read write or in multi-region read write, then the thing is like you have to set the conflict resolution also. So the different levels of conflict resolution and the consistency are provided by Azure according to the needs of your application. So all those things like the granular level of controls that you can put for your consistency level of your application. Usually in the consistency level, we seen like a strong consistency and eventual consistency. But in addition to that, you can have 5 levels of granular levels of consistency which you can set for your Cosmos DB. So such things you can set that easily from the Cosmos DB dashboard. On the left hand side, there is a option for Azure default consistency. So default consistency is the option which you have to look for that. So I can provide all the different links in this description of the podcast, so that you can always go through there and understand these things. And you may be wondering how the backup and restore is happening. So being this as a managed service, backup is automatically handled by Azure itself, and it occurs on different schedule. So the default one is like 4 hours, but you can change that as required, and the backups are stored separately, and the restore should be happen through the Azure support. So you have to contact Azure support for restore to happen. So these are the things which we understood from having a quick overview about Cosmos DB. So I hope by listening to this podcast, you will get a fairly quick overview about how you can use the Azure Cosmos DB in your application and can start working on this. So the equivalent service of this in other cloud provider like the Amazon is DynamoDB and then DocumentDB, etc. But Azure is Azure Cosmos DB is kind of a multi-model by which it has the flexibility to choose the API based on your comfortability, and you can interact with the underlying NoSQL database accordingly. Another way to understand this is like if you select a table store API, then you may be actually creating a kind of a table storage based item, and your interaction also may be kind of a table storage based on the partition key and associated thing. Similarly, for Core SQL, the underlying data you can create will be a kind of a JSON based document DB, but you can also query the database using a normal SQL, like select a start from your particular document where that particular property equal to something, and those are case sensitive as well. So you can easily query that using the Core SQL if you select that one. And another thing is, if you select Core SQL, there are some added advantages like stored procedures, triggers, and user-defined functions, which you can integrate into your Cosmos DB to make it serverless. And you can also have the additional option, additional flexibility to include that with the serverless, that Azure functions as well. This is at the time of recording this one, 21st of August 2021. Maybe after some days, maybe Azure may include the serverless support for other APIs as well, in addition to the Core SQL. But this is what I explaining at the time of recording this session. So thank you very much for listening this session. Have a nice day. And on the coming Wednesday night 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time, I will be planning to have a live event on Azure Cosmos DB. So we will see how we can create a new Cosmos DB. We can understand how we can create the different table API, different kinds of APIs like the Core SQL or MongoDB, and what are the differences of all these things. We also understand about the different options from the left hand side of that particular dashboard. We also see some extra things on the actual Azure portal. So if you are interested in having that particular session, please register for that, so that you will get a link after the session. so that you can always watch. Even though if you not register that, you can still go to that particular meetup event and check out the discussion area where I will be providing that YouTube record link as well. So I hope I can include that YouTube link now itself. So if you are interested in directly watching the session online or even after the session, you can go to my YouTube channel and that will be available there as well. With all that, thank you once again for listening this podcast. Have a nice day and have a great weekend ahead. Thank you. Thank you for listening again.
Thank you for listening this podcast. If you are interested in learning more from Vishnu, kindly subscribe Coding Talks from any of your favorite platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcast, iTunes, Google Podcast and Stitcher. Have a nice day and hope to see you over in the next episode.